Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for waiting. We would like to begin the press conference regarding the nonconformities in the final inspection process. Thank you for joining us today despite short notice. I would like to introduce you to the members who are here with us today. Leader of Japan Production SEM Operation, Honda-san, Corporate Vice President. My name is Honda. Nice to meet you. And Quality Assurance Corporate Vice President, Hirata-san. Thank you very much. I would like to ask Honda-san to make the presentations on the details. Honda-san, the floor is yours. Yes. I am in charge of the Japan Production and SEM Operation Division. My name is Honda. Thank you for joining us despite short notice out of your tight schedule. Thank you very much. As you may be aware, following the series of nonconformities in the final inspection line that were discovered last September, we announced the investigation findings and the recurrence prevention measures in November. We took compliance as a critical management issue and have been taking appropriate actions when we saw problems and continue developing and ensuring compliance attitude and mindset in all the operations. This April, the Japan Manufacturing and SCM Operation Division, which I lead, was created, and within this organization, a team dedicated to regulations and laws was established. We have been collaborating with the plants in Japan in carrying out the compliance overhaul. In the process of this voluntary inspection process, we discovered two non-conforming practices. One was discovered in July, an incident in sample testing of exhaust emission and fuel economy. And in September, an incident in precision sample testing were discovered and reported. And we have been reinforcing the recurrence prevention countermeasures. In the process of making the recurrence prevention measures more thorough and solid, we conducted a company-wide inspection on detailed definition of the processes and degree of understanding of the final inspectors. In the process of this voluntary audit, there was a testimony about the incidents in which pass or fail decision might have been unclear in the inspection done on some vehicles at the Oppama plant and Auto Works Kyoto. These were based on the interviews with the final inspectors. In the interviews, we discovered that some of the final inspectors at some of the plants were carrying out non-conforming inspection. Therefore, we judged that pass or fail decision may be unclear. In order to confirm the quality, we plan to make an application for recall to MLET. We are working out the details, and on December 13th, we plan to make an official application. Today, I would like to share with you the contents. With regards to the new incidents or non-conforming practices that were discovered in the final inspection, with regards to non-conformities in 100% inspection process, since last October, we made 3 applications to MLET for recall. The first one was dated on the 6th of October 2017. Second one was dated October 25th, 2017. And the third application was dated January 12, 2018. In total, this affected total 42 models and 1,143,540 units. we discovered that the following 6 incidents have a possibility of an unclear pass or fail decision in the final inspection. There are 6 of them. Let me describe one by one. The first one is using the parking brake when measuring rear wheel braking force. You should not use our parking brake in this process when measuring this rear wheel braking force. The second one is using a foot-operated brake pedal in measuring parking brake performance. You should not use a foot-operated brake pedal in the process of inspecting the parking brake performance. The third one is putting back the steering wheel into its original position to satisfy the internal standard in measuring the steering angle. At the time of the measurement, you should not put back the steering wheel into the original position. The fourth one is turning the steering wheel to left or right before measuring the steering angle in order to satisfy the internal standard. It should be measured while keeping the steering wheel straight when measuring the performance. The fifth one is about the inspection of the speedometer. This should be measured at the constant speed of what more than 1 second at 40 kilometers per hour. However, this was measured at the instant that the vehicle reached 40 kilometers per hour rather than maintained its speed for more than 1 second. Sixth one is the side slip inspection. The internal standard requires us to measure at 5 kilometers per hour. However, there was a slight excess on the speed. According to the testimony, it was measured between the speed of 6 kilometers per hour and 8 kilometers per hour to measure the side slip. All of the aforementioned findings are based on the Opama plant inspector's testimonies. And the second one about the parking brake measurement is based on the testimony in Auto Works Kyoto. Let me talk about the affected models and the affected volume. Affected models and the extent of the affected volume will be described. With regards to the affected models, please refer to the release at your hand. In Opama plant, we are doing a final inspection on Note, Leaf, Juke, Sylphy, Cube, and March. And Auto Works Kyoto produced Atlas, Civilian, and the 2 models going to Isuzu, which are Alpha and Journey, as well as a model supplied to Mitsubishi Fuso, which is Canter, Guts. These are the 11 models that were affected. The affected time period of production is the one following the affected time period of the ongoing recall. These are the vehicles that rolled off between the timing of the discovery of the incidents and implementation of the countermeasure up till October 17, 2018. As it's mentioned in the press release, the final inspection is based on November 7, 2017 up to October 25, 2018. The exact volume is still under investigation, but it's approximately 150,000 units. As we finalize the affected models on the 13th of December, we are going to submit an official application for recall to MLET. Now, I would like to talk about the recurrence prevention measures to be reinforced in the final inspection line. As we mentioned in the measures to address misconduct in sampling tests within final vehicle inspections dated September 26, 2018, it is critical to implement 77 items of the recurrence prevention measures. Yet because with regards to this recent incident, there seems to be a room for different interpretation about what the inspectors should do, and the lack of understanding of non-compliant practices, which appear to be one of the main reasons for the incident. Thus, we are reinforcing recurrence prevention measures from the following additional perspectives. The first one is about widespread dissemination of information regarding non-compliant practices. To be specific, non-compliant practices on Standard Operation Manual. We have the Standard Operation Manual that defines the standard operation at the shop floor of the production quality assurance. And on the Standard Operation Manual, we add non-compliant practices. And in standard work, inspectors will be required to confirm and be retrained on non-compliant practices. The second one is education on non-compliant practices will be added to training content within the process to register final inspectors. Third one is the monitoring system for the entire final inspection content will be reviewed. Compliance with standard operation procedures as well as inappropriate handling operations, including the additional monitoring of non-compliant practices. These are the three. Next is about better auditing function or checking function. The work of inspectors will be observed, and advisors for the inspectors, watchmen, in other words, will be newly based on the inspection line, or are based on the inspection line. And cameras to monitor the implementation status of standard operation procedures are installed on the inspection line. These are common across the plants, and this is introduced first from the Obama plant. And going forward, in order to make sure these nonconformity practices are physically impossible, with regards to these incidents or practices that we identified, we are going to take physical measures to make it physically impossible to be made. For item number 1 and number 2, which is about the brake pedal and parking brake lever, we will add a controller to the brake tester. When the parking brake and the main brakes, front wheels and rear wheels are operated simultaneously during brake force testing, the inspection is automatically voided. So we are adding a controller to make it automatically voided. At the same time, we are going to add a stopper for the brakes tester. This device is aimed to prevent testing results from becoming inconsistent when the position of the vehicle shifts on top of the tester. With regards to incident number 3 and number 4, which is about the steering angle inspection, we review the test specifications for the steering angle testing. Company standards for the steering angle testing will be modified with the aim of making the testing valid and consistent with the design value of the vehicle. We will also add the control device or function to the steering angle measurement device to prevent inspections from starting when wheel is already fully turned. For number 5, which is about measuring the speedometer, we modified the speed assessment program. If the cord is pulled before a speed of 40 kilometers per hour has been maintained for 1 second, the inspection is voided. This is the speed assessment program which will be changed. Item number 6, which is about the side slip test. We are installing a lamp to indicate whether the vehicle's speed when passing over the tester is within the specified range. This has started from the Obama plant. Summary. These are the details of the nonconformities that were recently discovered. Not limited to only monozukuri functions, we are conducting a thorough company-wide compliance overall on all the schemes and organization and processes. Ensuring compliance is seen as a critical management issue, and through these initiatives, when we find any problems, we are taking appropriate actions with a sense of responsibility and are determined to make sure that we develop compliance mindset across all the operations. We will continue taking these actions and make efforts to restore confidence of customers and all the stakeholders. That concludes my presentation. Let me express my deep apologies for the inconvenience caused. Thank you very much. I would like to take questions from the floor. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We will bring you a microphone. Please use the microphone when you are asking a question. Thank you for your understanding. If I may, please limit yourself to 2 questions per person. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Mainichi Shimbun, my name is Imazawa. In the last 3 times you conducted recall, in the first and second one, Mr. Saikawa was at the press conference, and I asked why Mr. Gon is not appearing. And in the third occasion, Mr. Yamauchi appeared, and I asked why can't Mr. Gon and Mr. Saikawa appear. And this time, why are you there? Saikawa-san may be too busy with the case with Mr. Gon, and Yamauchi-san is still busy. I don't know why. Mr. Yamauchi is so busy about the case of Mr. Gon. That's why he's not here.
私から社長としてのコメント
I'm not in the position to make a comment on behalf of our CEO, so let me refrain from making any comment. But under the leadership of Yamauchi-san, I have been working on this final inspection issues. I am leading the overall responsibility of Japan production SEM operation, and Hirata-san is in charge of quality assurance. And in the series of final inspection incidents that started from last year, this July, September, involving the exhaust emission and precision measurement, the series of the incidents are caused by common factors. And our initiatives that I described have been ongoing. We have continued working on these actions. So on the 26th of September, we announced our report, or the law firm's report. In these reports, you find that there are a series of problems, and as an extension, we have been conducting a compliance overhaul. So with regards to this issue, these are the issues that are identified in this ongoing inspection. So that is why I am making a presentation as part of the continuous efforts.
Please. Nikkei Business Yoshino is my name. I have 2 points. The first one, inspectors. What is the reason of their misconduct or unconformity? They wanted to finish the work quickly, and they wanted to have an easy way out of the inspection process. So what is the motivation of misconduct and nonconformity? That's my first question. I think the factors are multifarious. They are overlaid. So I'd like to talk about those multiple number of reasons. First, at Oppama plant. Regarding 6 cases, they all happened in Oppama plant. The first one. After all, the inspection equipment and facility in Oppama compared with other plants, they call it the same inspection equipment. However, it is rather old. There are some equipments old, 40-some years ago, the equipment was installed. So there is an outdated equipment so inspectors, the operation was not so easy. So they had to work out their own ways in order to have ease of inspection. So we went into in great detail and we found out that factor. The second reason, to the inspectors, the work of inspection, the guidance and instruction of inspection. The standard work manual is the basis of the instruction. The contents of the operation, procedures, and the order of procedures, or the inspection specifications and everything, they are all contained in the standard operation manual. This is very important for the shop floor people. Now, this standard operation manual, how is it made? I mean, the degree of excellence of this manual, it's detailed definition. Are there detailed and well-defined definitions? On this point, Oppama plant's manual and other plants' manuals may have presented some differences. So based upon the operation manual, correct procedures are followed, and this will be followed in terms of inspection, but this was not fully communicated to the inspectors. That led to the 6 incidences. I think this may have served as the second reason. Another, in addition to that, the standard operation manuals depict the procedures that should be followed, but in detail, the banned or prohibited practices are not explained so much in detail. They are doing what they should do, and they added something that they shouldn't have been doing. So we will have to look into the standard operational manual regarding all plants. We will have to, we didn't have the full penetration of the correct ways of doing things in terms of inspection. That is the sole searching point. Going forward, we will have to look into and compare all manuals of all plants, and this manuals that should be well detailed. Horizontally, we will have to check and overhaul activities of standard operation manuals. So that's the overall second topic. The third topic, come to think of it, when we think of Oppama plant for many years, it played the role of a mother plant. Of course, in all aspects, they played a leadership role for many years. It's a fact. In this process, maybe somewhat they went out of the way. They have overstretched in terms of their activities and duties, maybe. For example, cost, quality, and delivery. These are main points. These are the indicators for production, indices for production, and maybe they have overly inclined on cost element, emphasized the cost element. So after this fiscal year, in each plant, they will have strengths and weaknesses, so we will compare them, and in Oppama plant too, if they were overstretched, then we will fix that, so that quality would be regarded important. Those would be the activities that would be promoted, and actually we have commenced doing so already. So that being very important, however, there are still areas where we have not done fully So this time round, we discovered those things that we have not been doing fully. So I hope you understand that. There is one more point. Steering angle testing. The in-house standard was a bit in excess. How come your in-house standard was in excess? As a result, consequently, the inspectors overstretched, maybe? Do you think so? And that led into the non-compliant activities. So can you be more elaborate about it? What you said is exactly right. Steering angle. For example, if you turn the steering wheel fully to the right, and then the front tire house, inside the front tire house, other parts and components and bodies would come in contact. So that is very dangerous. So by design, there is a certain clearance ensured. And if you turn the wheel to the full, so the parts and components would not come into contact, on drawing it is secured so that safety is ensured. But, for example, 30-millimeter clearance is there, just by way of example. And then this is the good amount of clearance ensured. However, from the standard specification, inspection to 30 millimeters, for example, 5 millimeter, originally 15 millimeter should have been kept. And even you keep that, and safety-wise, there's no problem. But very, very tough condition is set. For example, 5 millimeters. So in Oppama plant inspectors, what was the reason of Oppama's non-compliant activities? And we looked into the drawings, and then we found out this steering wheel in-house standard. Why didn't we find out sooner, you may ask? Well, in terms of the real capability, even this would go. The stable production would be possible, they thought. And we set the specifications, but at times, I will emphasize, it became rather difficult to go into. So you just had a little turning back. So once again, we will overhaul the drawings as well as the actual performance values, and we will recheck all values so that appropriate values, inspection values, would be produced. It's the reforming.
Thank you, Hans.
こんにちは。Automotive News のハンスと申し
I am Hans from Automotive News. Do we have interpretation service? Can I speak in English?
I would like to ask about these questions. To what degree can Mr. Ghosn be contributing to these problems with the culture that he created, that is, pushing unrealistic goals, prioritizing volume and speed and output, and cost cutting? These are all pressures on the factories for shortcuts. To what degree do his unrealistic goals contribute to these problems?
ですね、これはゴーンさん
Rather than attributing to Mr. Ghosn, well, this is my personal insight too, by the way. We are building cars, and we are involved in monozukuri activities. And as far as we are involved in monozukuri, quality enhancement should be continued. We need to deliver reasonable and competitive price for the customers, and to this end, costs at the plants should be smaller. And stable production and delivery should be ensured so that we can deliver the cars at the date that we promise to the customers. And at the foundation, we have safety of the shop floor and environmental conservation. These are at the foundational basis of monozukuri. And rather than the pressure from Mr. Gon, from the past in the Monozukuri shop floor, we have been working on this based on this philosophy, and we need to continue doing so. In Monozukuri function, this is a matter of course. And your question is whether, since Mr. Gon arrived at Nissan, did it spur this kind of non-conforming practice? I think that's what you want to ask. Partially, there may be a tendency that has been spurred by this pressure. However, this incident concerned with we haven't really confirmed whether there's a direct relationship between this pressure and this race incident around final inspection. Yes. Nippon Hoso, my name is Hatanaka. A simple question or two simple questions. In the previous occasion, Mr. Yamauchi said that he eliminated all the problems, removed all the pus out. Mr. Honda, pus remains? Are you sure you eliminated all the problems? That's one. And Honda-san, you talk about the Oppama plant. Honda-san, 10 years ago, you were plant manager of Oppama plant. And compared to 10 years ago, how do you see Oppama plant today? Is the ambience different from what you have seen 10 years ago? Or even 10 years before, there was an ambience that may result in these incidents? What do you feel? Just a feeling. Pus. Okay. Did we eliminate all the pus? Yes, that's the most difficult question. I believe that we eliminated all the pus, all the problems. And in the 100% inspection process and exhaust emission fuel economy testing and the precision measurement, these 100% final inspection, we have went back to the 100% final inspection. In the 100% final inspection, there were some weaknesses. But we relevant parties should feel it and address them. But these were not well communicated to all the inspectors. So we need to identify what's really important. That's what we acutely feel. So I will value what I feel today and communicate this message. However, in the production shop floor, we are already adapting to changes. Things change. People change. Equipment change. Equipment gets outdated. We introduce new models. There are minor changes, model events. So we call this 4M. Production process and men, objects, and equipment. Even when these change at the stable operation, we need to deliver reasonable cost and attractive vehicles. And from the top to the bottom, all the levels of the company should be united. In that sense, we will be foreseeing changes in the future. So we should always observe what's happening, including the changes, and continue working on compliance efforts to make sure no pus is created. If there's any issue or potential risk, we need to eliminate them in advance. That's what we have to do at the shop floor. That's one. And the other one, Oppama plant, did it change over 10 years? Why did we establish Japan Production and SCM Operation Division? That's what we need to look back at. In terms of comparison, compared to the plants in Japan, we pay more attention to the overseas deployment. That may be one of the reasons. And this Japan production and SCM operation should be valued. So that is why we established this department or division. And we said that we have to make more investment in Japan. Investment means Japan, in terms of equipment, we have the oldest manufacturing equipment, manufacturing lines are oldest in Japan. In terms of human resources, as you may be aware, because of the declining childbirth rate and aging population, working population is declining in numbers, so there's a diversification of labor force in Japan. Against such backdrop, production in Japan should be stabilized and implemented steadily. And to this end, we need to put enough resources. Resources means human resources as well as resources in terms of equipment and facilities. These are the things that we need to address. It's not limited to Oppama plant. At all the plants in Japan, we need to do this. And CEO Saikawa said in his announcement, 180 billion yen of investment in terms of human resources over the next several years. 1,000 people will be employed in monozukuri, production shop floor, and engineers, quality. In the production area, we are going to add these resources. We have a plan to do so, and this was approved by CEO. So we are implementing this.
ありがとうございます。はい。
Thank you. The person in the front row. Kimura from Asahi Newspaper, 2 points. This time round, in the background of the discovery of the incidences, Subaru had a case, and it looks very similar. So in your voluntary inspection, you found out those cases. Simply put, after Subaru's announcement, you rechecked and then you found out and you discovered these incidences, and there were remarks in the interview. Am I correct in understanding? Is it equivalent to the self-cleansing ability of your company? So that's the first point. And the second one is related with the first point. The CEO Saikawa is not present here. Mr. Gon, in the case of former Chairman Gon, CEO Saikawa explained himself regarding non-compliant cases, the degree of seriousness is less than Mr. Gon's case. Is that what you mean? Related question, because of the Mr. Gon's incidents, you want to reconstruct the balance? And then top management is not discharging managerial responsibility. Can you really do it? I have a question, so can you respond to these questions? The first point, Subaru. Is it not related with the Subaru's announcement? That was your question. But as I said earlier on, in April, as a matter of fact, including the preparation from February of this year, regulation group was established. Compliance group was established, and officially from April, this group was launched. In Japan or in overseas auto manufacturers or outside the auto manufacturers, various compliance issues do happen, and they are being reported. Regarding these information cases, we get the information. Sometimes we make a direct visit to these places, why these things happened. We ask questions, we inquire about that. To the extent possible, we collect detailed information. And we want to digest in ourselves so that we can capitalize what we can learn from those informations. These are the activities that we have been continuing for a long time. So this, with respect to the current incidences, Subaru's announcement happened on the 28th of September. And of course, as I said, other companies, other cases that we learned, just like other cases, we surveyed and we studied Subaru's case as well. And immediately, promptly, in our plant, is there anything similar or identical from Subaru's case? We conducted our survey, and it happened on the 4th of October. And from myself, I issued instruction to all plants. Is there any similar events and similar cases that they find? And I interviewed, or we asked questions over several hundreds of people. Some people have been already retired. So some members had retired. So including those people retired, I have asked whether such similar things happened or not. Unfortunately, in some plants, as I reported to you, come to think of it, yes, something similar to that happened on 1 unit or 2 units per day. This kind of remarks or testimony came from the interview. So we followed. And then during this period, that inspector, while this inspector was working, unfortunately, the affected units would have happened. And the inspection, there is no certainty whether the inspection was done in a proper way, correct way. So I'm sorry, I regret for the customers, but we will issue a recall. And so that we want to ascertain the quality of the vehicles that we produce. Subaru case, in that sense, so Subaru happened, that's why we discovered, no, it's not. It's not directly related. The Subaru's example was taken as a reference for us, but even more cases we studied for the past 1 year. We surveyed, we investigated so many cases, and Subaru is just one of many. I hope you understand that. And one more point, another question. I don't think I am in a position to respond to that question.
Yes. Anyone else? Yes, the person at the front.
取材事務所の
Nakajima Minami Jimusho, I'm from. I have a couple of questions. In the interviews, were there temporary workers who made a testimony? Were they involved in the non-conforming practices? And Honda-san, I understand your passion behind what you said, but once you reach the 40 kilometers per hour, you measure speedometer, or in the inspection of the parking brake, you use a foot-operated pedal. I mean, I don't know why they do these kind of things. Why did they do that in the first place? I mean, you haven't explained this in your presentation. As an expert, could you elaborate how people can come to these kind of misconducts or wrongdoings?
ですね、期間
Temporary workers. Were there temporary workers who are interviewed? Yes, some were temporary workers. Last year, when we faced the final inspection issue last fall, and we found out there was a shortage in the number of inspectors. So we actively recruited official employees. But not all of them are recruited as official employees yet. It's not 100% official employees. So we employed temporary workers. But since then, temporary workers underwent a training just like other official employees who are final inspectors for several weeks. And on top of this several week worth of training program, they are on the job training to be skilled enough and qualified as final inspectors. So these people, when these people leave the company, they do leave the company. In these cases, we have to replace the people. So since last year, we had a redundancy, so to speak, or 20% excess in the human resources to operate the final inspection line. So at all times, we are nurturing final inspectors. At the same time, as much as possible, among the temporary workers, we are employing people who are ready to be an official employees, and those who are ready to become an official employees, they are doing so. This is still underway. And the second one, why did these individuals measure the speedometer at the instant they reach 40 kilometers per hour? You have to pull a cord for this. On the free rolling equipment, you measure speedometer. And you need to do in different driving behavior from 100 kilometers per hour, decelerate, come down to 40 kilometers per hour. And at the 40 kilometers per hour, you measure the speedometer performance. So linearly, the speed will fall. Linearly, the speed will fall. So at 50 kilometers, 48 kilometers, 46 kilometers, it declines in a linear manner. And once you reach 40 kilometers per hour, you have to pull a cord. And in the normal practice, for more than 1 second, you have to keep this 40 kilometers per hour. That's the internal testing spec. So there's axle work, which is generated. And if you do axle work, as you are driving, if you drive, you know this. There's a fluctuation, or the speed will kind of fluctuate. And people don't like this. So they thought that this fluctuation was bad. Excuse me, my throat.
平田の方から
Hirata-san will talk about the other one.
この度
Let me express my deep apologies for the great inconvenience caused among the consumers. I'm responsible quality assurance, and I would like to express my deep apologies. Let me talk about the braking force. At Auto Works Kyoto, we produce the vehicles which are called civilian, which is a big size car which can accommodate a lot of passengers, and Atlas is the other one. It's a truck. The vehicle weight is heavy. So that is why we need a braking force which deserves this big weight. And at the same time, the brake testing, when we measure the braking performance, because of the structure of the vehicle, if you put on the braking force, the braking tester, the wheels will be lifted from the braking performance measurement instrument because of the structure of the vehicle. So in order to avoid this, they were putting on the brake. As Honda-san mentioned in his presentation, physically, we took action so that the car is not lifted. So that is why we put a stopper to fix the car on the equipment.
すいません、マイクで
Could you use a microphone?
駐車ブレーキ
And the parking brake will be put on the rear wheel, right? I mean, it will be put on the rear wheel and front wheel? It's rear wheel, basically. Generally, it's rear wheel. What do you mean by generally? No, in trucks, it's a propeller shaft where we have a center brake on the propeller shaft. In this case, trucks and passenger vehicles, there are different types.
もう1点だけ
Another question. If so, most people will have the car lifted from the equipment. So there will be more frequent errors. They only did this non-conforming practices for 1 or 2 units per day. Sounds small. That will be the last one. I'm sorry. Please answer. Is it about Atlas?
申し訳
Excuse me, what do you mean? Your question is, the Atlas which is produced at AutoWorks, are you talking about stopper?
適切事案の2について
It's item number 2 in the list of incidents that you mentioned.
これですね。
Yeah, this is one, right? So Atlas produced in Auto Works, and the other one is in Opama plant. So we have two types of vehicles involved in this incident. But what Hirata-san mentioned was about the vehicles produced at Auto Works. And the general passenger vehicles produced in Opama plant, the parking brake, well, PKB, side brake. When you shift the side brake or PKB, and this was to measure the performance of the side brake or PKB. So when you put on the brake, you lift the parking brake and turn the wheels and see whether the braking force is within the requirement. That it means that we assure the performance of the braking. But at that instant, I don't know how to put it. It's really difficult to express. It's really, I don't know how to put it. It's a habit. There are people who are worried because the person who are worried put his feet on the brake because he got worried. That was the testimony that we got. Not many did that. Then how many units per day? It's like once or twice. That was the testimony. Maybe 1 or 2 units per day. That was the testimony. So more than that, I mean, this is about confirming the performance of a parking brake. So you shouldn't put the foot-operated brake on in the first place. And the majority, including other plants, there are several tens of inspectors who are involved in this inspection. And amongst these several tens of inspectors, a limited number of people, several people in Opama, it was only one person, by the way, to be precise. This person said, I did this. That was the testimony from the individual who did it. And because we heard this testimony, we can't say whether the inspection was done right. We can ascertain, or at least we have to check whether the inspections are done right. And if we can add this, since we got this testimony, immediately we suspended the final inspection operation and suspended the delivery or shipment, suspended the shipment from the factories. And the vehicles in the backyard, before they are shipped, all of these units were gathered to see whether we had to do this kind of practice or not. We collected more than 1,000 units. Several hundreds of units in addition to 1,000 units, and we inspected them once again. And we asked the same inspector. We asked the same inspector to test these vehicles without putting a foot-operated brake when he measures the side brake. But none of the vehicles failed to satisfy the requirements. I mean, because we are going to make an application for the recall, I can't say more than this. But as far as we can confirm, we would like to conduct a recall. But our guidance was not fully understood by the inspectors. That was a fact.
はい、ありがとうございます。はい、どうぞ。
Thank you. Yes, please. Thank you. Miyamoto from NHK. I have 2 questions to Honda-san. In relation to Mr. Gon. Well, the first point. Honda-san, in your response, you said that in the shop floor of Monozukuri, cost down was more emphasized and it was accelerated under the management philosophy of Mr. Gon. What do you mean by being accelerated or put on more attention? And as a person responsible of the shop floor, what was the voices of complaints or grievances for this situation? Second point, at Oppama plant, such things happened, and one reason was that the equipment was outdated or old. So before the misconduct, I think the role of the company is to replace all the equipment. How come before the misconduct you couldn't do the replacement? What is the background? I think the strong consciousness of cost reduction by Mr. Gon, do you think that was in operation? That was affecting it? Well, in greater detail, on the 26th of September, on the occasion of the precision sample testing, we made an announcement. We issued a report, Nissan Report, and also a report from the law firm. So I hope that you will read what we wrote in those reports as reference. In great detail, relevant points are described in these two reports. Well, being accelerated or put on more energy on it, I don't want you to pick up that kind of adjective or description. That's different from what we feel. Constantly, incessantly, as I said, quality, effort, and the cost issues, and the production, stable operation of a production. These are the things that we are always constantly in pursuit. Not only in all plants, it's uniformly applied. And with that, we will enhance our competitiveness. And we will compete regarding our competitiveness, and as a Nissan organization overall, the competitive capability would be enhanced if plants do competition-friendly rivalry in terms of the capability, and then Nissan's competitiveness will be enhanced. Cost elements. Cost is constituted of various elements, energy or labor cost, or the depreciation cost of equipment. So these are, among others, the factors contributing to cost. So we will make all kinds of challenges to cost possible reduction. And even today, we need to do that. But there are issues of compliance. And compliance challenge and the cost reduction challenge, including myself, these two challenges, will they be put on the same level? So sometimes I do the soul searching about that. In other words, what I mean is this, cost and compliance, if you compare them, compliance must take a precedence. That is an absolute thinking, which was not the case, and cost and compliance were always placed on the same level. So you must not yield one important line. You cannot yield or concede one line, absolutely necessary thing. That is what I'm thinking.
I have a question about the equipment in the production. Refreshing the equipment is what the workers are looking for. They suggested to replace the equipment with the new one, but because cost was the top priority, these proposals were killed, not limited to Oppama plant. I'm asking about all the plants. Equipment is fixed asset. So this will be part of a depreciation cost. This is part of cost. Therefore, as much as possible, we wanted to use them as long as possible. Even if it's a bit old, we would like to continue using it. This is very strong within Nissan. Well, this is about valuing objects. Even if the objects are old, we maintain a utilization. And as a result, this maintenance performance or maintenance capabilities were honed because we keep on using the old equipment. But there's a balance here. It's very difficult to continue using this old equipment any longer. How do we make a distinction to decide on replacing it with a new one or not? Retrospectively, we should have made capital investments faster. That's my reflection. So as I said, Japan Production SCM Operation Division, within this division, we are revisiting the things that we have been tough on to ease the jobs by the production people. We would like to replace the equipment to ease the operation of the people working in the production shop floor, and this is underway. Top management supports this, and we are implementing this action. This is what I'm doing. Thank you very much on this. Excuse me, one addition. We are valuing old equipment. This is evaluation instrument. So without the right measurement, you are unable to satisfy with the Hoan Kijun safety standards. So twice a year we do an inspection and adjustments. These are done. And that is why we continue using them for long years. Of course, we are doing a regular inspection. So we assure the accuracy or performance of these equipment.
はい。
Kyodo, I have a couple of questions. The first one, looking at the time period affected by the recall, after you submitted the report in September, this time period follows. So as a result of interviews, you discovered these misconducts. So as one question is that before you conducted interviews, did you hear that there was a whistle blowing indicating that this incident happened? If not, why? Even if these are the incidents that happened, you couldn't reveal it without interviewing it. Is there any issue with the corporate culture? What's your understanding here?
昨年のです
Last year, since the revelation of the final inspection issue, we discovered this incident. Why? As I described earlier, to start with, this latest discovery, people weren't conscious that what they have done are non-conforming practices in the first place. They didn't know it was non-conforming practices. And why didn't the people around them or the supervisors or managers couldn't discover this? Here, one is that it was not done frequently. Of course, we observe the jobs. Every day we are observing the jobs done. For example, per one shift per day, sometime we in a specific number of times we observed the job, but they didn't encounter this non-conforming practice and putting on the foot-operated pedal and side brake. We call it second to third notch, according to the testimony of this individual who did this. Notch 2 to notch 3. How much is this? Notch 2 to notch 3. This is how much. It's very, I mean, he didn't do it every time. He did it once in a while only. So this was not discovered through the sampling test job observation. That's the second reason for not being able to discover it. Why didn't people talk about it? Because these individuals didn't know that these were non-conforming practices in the first place. And on the standard operation manual, it didn't say that it was a non-conforming practice. It was not written in the operational standard. So they were not taught that it was a non-conforming practice. They weren't taught about it. They know what to do. They know what are the conforming practices, but they didn't know about the non-conforming practices. Yes, excuse me, just one thing. And the recall, does this affect the safety of the vehicles? Let me answer. These, as you can see in the press release, these vehicles that are affected, there are 6 items of inappropriate measurement. And we haven't gotten any field defects reported by the field. However, for the customers, each vehicle is very important. And even if one vehicle is not satisfying the Hoan Kijun safety standards, that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't be the case. So with regards to this affected vehicle, as Mr. Honda said, we suspended the delivery and we retested the vehicles after suspending the shipment from the factory. And this will cause a great inconvenience on the customers, but in order to reassure them, we would like to conduct a recall. That's why we are trying to we are still coordinating with the EMLET.
はい、次の。
Next one.
Thank you. Niekawa from Asahi. At Oppama plant, one inspector regarding brake provided testimony. Since when do you think that this person was doing this? When was the start of that misconduct? The second point, a similar question on the in the report of September 26th, according to the survey. Of course, you were not able to detect it, discover it. But come to think of it, in the case of 100% test, how come that it escaped your discovery? What happened? What was the reason why you were not able to discover them? Since when? That's your question. Let me confirm the document and materials. Then the next point in your question. So September 26th, so you were not able to, we were not able to find them. Why? So that was the question. The first point. In July, the exhaust and fuel economy, and in September, precision sample testing, so the inspection. It's not 100% testing. It is a sampling test, and it was a report about that precision sample test. At that time, we conducted hearing and interviews. Over a considerable number of people, several hundreds of people, we conducted interview at that time. Even in the interviews, it wasn't mentioned. Sorry about that, but as I have been saying, this conduct itself was not regarded as a non-compliant practices. It was not their perception that it was a non-compliant. So the interviewer did not ask a question, for example, do you do this and this? PKB, the side brake inspection, do you apply the foot-operated brake? Do you? If you ask that question, the interviewee might have answered in a different way, but the question was asked in a different way. Other than that, is there anything that you are not able to do, not according to the rules? But they think that it is not against the rules, so they will not respond to that question because they know that they are compliant. So, yes. Now to your first question from August 2016. Yes, next question.
です。はい、真ん中の。
Yes, the person in the middle. Nikkei Shimbun, my name is Furukawa. I have a couple of questions. The first one, with this recent recall, how does this affect your bottom line or performance of the company? How does it impact the sales in Japan? There will be a last-minute demand, which you are expecting. How will it affect the company's performance? And the second question, in the report in September, Opama plant, you transferred in March, and because of the reform by Mr. Gon, there was a cost pressure which was particularly strong on Opama plant. So how do you see the relationship between Mr. Gon and this incident that you discovered lately?
業績
The impact on the bottom line? Well, as of for now, including the expenses for the recall are still under calculation. So I'm not in a position to give you an answer, or rather, I cannot talk about it at this moment. And Opama was subjected to the variety of challenge initiatives given by Mr. Gon. This impact, as I have been saying, Opama, to start with, was assuming a leadership role. So at all times, Opama plant in many areas have been addressing challenges. That is the role of a leading plant. So Opama plant tended to be overstretched a little bit. But in order to, the intention to increase the competitive edge further grew. That cannot be denied. Yes, over there, the person in the middle at the back. Freelancer, my name is Matsuzaki. A simple question. You announced the recurrence prevention measures, and yet, in a short period of time, you are conducting many recalls. Probably this is unprecedented. Are you going to continue conducting recalls going forward? If you say this is the last one, this will not repeat itself. So what's the ground, the reasoning behind you saying that this will be the last recall that you are going to conduct?
非常に厳しい
That's a very tough question indeed.
我々この活動です
We are going to continue taking this ongoing initiatives. If we find out any inappropriate non-conforming incidents, we will immediately unveil it and take necessary countermeasure. That's the only thing that I can say. Needless to say, personally, I feel that we have done what we can do, but I can't say that we will absolutely not see any other incidents because there are a lot of changes that we are facing. And in order to adapt to these changes, we need to retain a strong compliance attitude and a very transparent working environment and make appropriate investments and create appropriate environment. While we do this, we would like to prevent these things from rising. That's what we would like to work on. That's what I want to state. Yes.
じゃあ、一番前の。
The person at the front, very front.
日刊自動車
My name is Yamamoto from Nikkan Jidosha. And one question. Mr. Gon was receiving a tremendous amount of compensation, and this was revealed. And at the same time, Opama plant people were using outdated equipment. It was not replaced with the new ones. They were forced to use the old equipment. And plant workers, these people who are involved in this non-conforming practices, how do they feel about the situation?
特別ですね、その件に
With regards to that specific subject, we haven't had any exchanges or discussions, so I cannot talk about it at this juncture.
はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you. Yes. One more person. Yes, the person in the middle. Yomiuri Akiyama is my name. It's a similar question. About 40 years ago, you are using the inspection equipment 40 years old. In a way, because you were conscious of cost too much and you were slighting quality. What is your view about that? Well, as explained earlier, inspection, measuring, regarding these practices, outside expert manufacturers are coming into and they are checking and they are inspecting the good performance level of measurement and the checking. So I think we were able to continue accurate checking and measurement. Thank you very much for long hours. With this, we'd like to complete the press conference. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.